It's official, baby! New York City is back! Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Gradowski of WeAreChange.org. Lots to talk about today, especially about the urban decay going on and the turmoil happening inside the U.S. military that is creating a lot of controversy and drama. There's more oil burning in the oceans with even crazier conspiracy theories around them, which, of course, we are going to be debunking. All of that, plus a lot more here on this independent media organization that is very happy that it left New York City. Now, as our urban city areas are, quote, going back to normal with a whole bunch of new crime, and there's a lot more crime going on right now that is inescapable as we keep hearing about horror stories of the most random attacks that target innocent civilians the most, like the latest story of a female tourist in Times Square that was violently attacked and slashed with a knife after ignoring a stranger's catcalls. Serious crimes in New York City have jumped 25% in the last 12 months, and it will only continue to rise, as of course the police there are on an unofficial slowdown and protest in the city. And as that happens, a city that spends almost $5 billion on its local police department, which by and large has been deemed absolutely ineffective at the huge surge of crime that is taking over the city. Criminals are becoming more brazen. Women are becoming predominantly the victims here, as this video portrays a man just literally walking into a Central Park West brownstone at 1 o'clock in the morning like it was his own, and then continuing to rob it. And there's more and more of these examples, more brazen by the day, as a lot of citizens are left shocked and dismayed at what New York City has turned into, as the New York Post has the latest article entitled, quote, "This Lower East Side neighborhood is again plagued by crowds and chaos." The Daily Mail had another very interesting article titled, "Despairing residents of Manhattan's Hell Square in the Lower East Side pled with NYPD to stop constant partying that is, quote, making their lives miserable." And this is not just Karens complaining about young partygoers, since specifically they're complaining about the brazen out in the open drug dealing, muggings, and noise that goes on past 4:30 in the morning. This urban chaos and disarray is not just affecting New York City, as of course Target has just announced that it's going to be closing its stores early in San Francisco due to chronic shoplifting that local police departments are refusing to enforce after the city established less criminal charges for the criminals doing the shoplifting. It's also important to note here that Walgreens has already closed 17 of its stores in San Francisco since 2016 because of people stealing from them, which has created such a desperate situation where many elderly people are finding it extremely difficult to even find a pharmacy in order to fill their prescriptions. And as some police officers are deciding not to act or to respond to calls, or are officially slowing down their response times, other police officers are just quitting or going through early retirement, as many police departments all throughout the country are struggling to hire new recruits. And what did you expect to happen? Now, with all this insanity, with all this nonsense unfolding in major cities all across the country, what is the nation's state-funded media deciding to focus on and report on? Well, NPR, National Public Radio, which is taxpayer-funded, has announced that they are outraged about the Declaration of Independence, which they warned its viewers that it included some kind of slurs. They called the document deeply ingrained in hypocrisies. This as they announced this warning before the reading of the Declaration of Independence on, of course, July 4th. It's nice to know while so many people are suffering and continuing to get hurt and being victims of the multinational billionaire banking elites, that NPR definitely has their priorities set. What is the White House focusing on during these very troubling times? Well, they have Dr. Fauci out there again flip-flopping, contradicting himself, now saying that you should wear a mask even if you took the medical procedure that he wanted you to take, which he said he would make you not wear a mask if you did take. Now he's flip-flopping on that, telling Americans that they need to do the extra step again. We're going to be talking about this in great detail, as well as some very troubling data from the public health records of England, which highlights some very interesting data surrounding this new variant, especially if you did take a medical procedure that the establishment wants you to take. Again, I already said too much. I'm going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all exclusively on LukeUncensored.com, where we're going to actually be able to talk about these issues in a fully uncensored way. If you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? It's just 50 cents a day, and you could join our cult, which I'm also calling a secret society. It's a thing. You'll understand once you're in there. But yeah, click the link down in the description down below right now. Now, respectively, when we look on the world stage, we see China and the United States vying for global hegemony, vying to be the number one supreme world ruling power, and we've seen these countries use two different approaches to get there. The Chinese approach is a very methodical one based on trade, finance, and some would say exploitation of the national markets that are out there. We have seen this initiative played out with their Belt and Road Initiative program that is working on spreading the influence of China economically rather than, of course, militarily, as the United States usually conducts their foreign policy with. And I think it's fair to say that China has been able to export their policies to countries in Africa, especially in countries in the Middle East, and even in some regions in Europe, as their programs and initiatives are very vast and they are expanding, and soon may even be expanding into Afghanistan, as China is allegedly planning a $62 billion investment plan to be a part of their Belt and Road Initiative program with Afghanistan as soon as the United States decides to leave there. Geopolitically, this would be a very big deal. This would also establish a larger corridor between China, Pakistan, and the rest of the Middle East, especially with countries like Iran that they are closely aligned with. We also have to acknowledge that a lot of these investments by China are not just for trade, but to specifically collect on their investments when countries fail to pay for them, as it looks like China may soon be seizing land from the citizens of Montenegro after that country looks like it will fail to pay a $1 billion Belt and Road loan that the country's politicians agreed for in exchange for a 270-mile road, which, according to many critics, leads to nowhere. It's also being reported that just a handful of miles were ever built, and this is another part of China's strategy that needs to be understood here. What is the United States doing? Well, they're leaving Afghanistan that they invested trillions of dollars in that magically disappeared. You would think investing trillions of dollars into Afghanistan would produce a new kind of Abu Dhabi, a new kind of Dubai, a new kind of futuristic, top-notch, almost Jetson-like upgraded civilized society. And no, Afghanistan is still a literal crap hole, which some people say was even made way worse with U.S. intervention. And what does the United States have to show after spending trillions of dollars in Afghanistan? Well, absolutely nothing. And as the Chinese government literally tries to promote men to become more manly, what is the United States doing? Well, the U.S. military is literally dressing up U.S. soldiers in heels, and in some instances there's reports of lipstick in their latest SJW woke ideology promotion for who knows what awful reason they made up for this to happen. But it is happening, along with other events of forced, mandatory diversity hikes, critical race theory teachings, while the top echelons of the military is just as irrational, especially when it comes to their spending, which is, again, showing to be an absolute travesty, as there's new reports of the U.S. military's new $1.7 trillion weapon system, which doesn't work. Yep, it's taking the military-industrial complex 2 decades to produce the F-35. That, of course, is plagued with problems and doesn't perform as promised. And that's not the only problem facing the absolutely idiotic and wasteful spending, mass carbon-producing military-industrial complex, as now we are getting reports that the U.S. Army is directing its commanders to prepare for a mandatory medical procedure for all of its troops. This is something that U.S. Congressman Thomas Macy has been tweeting about, saying that he's been contacted by many members of the voluntary U.S. military who said that they would quit if this mandatory medical procedure is implemented. Thomas Macy even produced a bill on the House floor, H.R. 3860, to prohibit this from happening. But according to the initial reports, there is a directive from the executive office, the presidency of the United States, that is going to try to mandate this, which is going to be interesting since the DoD even confirms that the levels of heart inflammation are higher than they expected in their studies of this medical procedure on U.S. military personnel. The DoD confirmed a significant higher of heart inflammation linked to this medical procedure than previously believed, which, according to many mainstream media articles, adds evidence to this claim and underscores the rarity of it. This is not me saying it. This is literally ABC News in San Diego reporting on this. And when we know that this is happening, why would you make this mandatory? To a lot of people, this is illogical and nonsensical, especially if you look at people's ability to have antibodies. Complications with people who have antibodies in this medical procedure, which the Biden administration is saying getting is the most patriotic thing that you could do. Now, that's a very ironic statement, to say the least, especially with all the latest events that have been happening in relation to this. But again, I am not a medical professional, and what I could say about this topic is limited here on this platform, and I won't go any further. Also, there's some new information about yet another ransom attack that will, of course, create more of a geopolitical, unnecessarily volatile situation with Russia and the United States. There's a lot of very strange incidences regarding these particular hacks. We talked about them before. They're happening now. They're NSA spying tools that have been leaked to the general public. We don't know exactly who's really behind them. The ransom hackers don't even know how to use Bitcoin effectively. They're not even trying to hold on to their private keys. They're getting their Bitcoin confiscated after getting them. Is this one group? Is this a bunch of people? Is this a bunch of Again, we don't know what's going on here, and that's why it's important not to jump to conclusions like we saw this very delusional and very unwell person do that was literally spreading a theory that yesterday's gas line explosion was a, quote, retaliation by the Biden administration in response to these ransom attacks. Now, no, I don't believe the United States attacked this pipeline, since this pipeline wasn't Russian and it was a direct competitor to Russia. So just on that basic premise alone, it is absolutely ridiculous to claim that somehow there's a direct link or correlation. Again, lots of crazy nonsense out there. The best thing you could do is have discernment, is to use critical thinking in a way to evaluate information after looking at it from all different sides and perspectives. That's what we strive to do here. That's what YouTube has been preventing. That's what the mainstream media absolutely is not. And if you appreciate it, share this video with your friends and family members. It is more imperative and important than ever that you do so. And because you do, I am still here. Takes nothing. Double click the link. You're getting groceries. You're talking to the person bagging your groceries. Be like, hey, I think you should check out We Are Change on YouTube. They'll be like, why? Be like, hey, you'll know when you watch it. If you're that store clerk, hi, send it back to your friend working at the cash register, and we'll talk to you, friend at the cash register, later on. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.